Good morning. Thanks for coming on such a gorgeous day. I'm sure the temptation to just be going around the lake or raking your own yard and stuff is always one of those pulls when we get these first nice days. So I appreciate your being here. Pete, I appreciate what you said about Victor. It was mentioned to me earlier today that some people have been feeling like they've been welling up. And in my experience, that means that the unseen world, the people who have passed or our guides and our support, it means that they're close by. Because when you can be feeling just fine one minute and all of a sudden, it's that their vibration is so much higher than ours, so it fills us up so fast. And so then that's where the release comes in. So if you're having any of that, we don't want to tuck that away, do we? So it's in that art of just allowing. So I found out about Victor's passing or transition late last night after I was already finished with the presentation that I was going to offer you guys today. And but I think it'll tie in. I don't want to be disrespectful and not honor the loss, but I do think that when we have a topic, Gary gives us a topic for the month, and this month was on selfless service. And so I think that this will tie in. But we're first looking at what is selfless service. So we have to look at what is the self. So to me, the self is the unseen, the formless energy, the part of me that animates my arm, not my arm. And so in a culture where we're so attached to the material world or the physical well-being, we sometimes forget that it's really a secondary thing, that our first and highest self is that formless self. And I know that that's why people get attracted to being here, is because people honor and see that, regardless of what your journey is, and that you can, like Victor, be able to speak and be okay with saying that there's something more, So I think this is a great picture in showing that, it's almost like the essence is coming into the body and going like, what? Like, oh my God, I have to carry that thing around, That's how it felt. When I was injured, it felt like that. It was like my essence was totally willing to do anything, but my container, my earth suit, was like not cooperating. And so it's like that essence in us is that part that's going like, oh my gosh, I have to lift that leg again. It was so much easier before this container. So, to me, it's kind of like looking at what is self with the big S, is the way I like to think about it, is self with the big S is the one on the left. The self that I am in this body is the little one. Because me as my identity of this shrinks and diminishes the true essence of who we are. But the formless needs us to be here in form. So we agreed to have this experience in this, body, this place of form. But it's always the challenge here is to not be fooled by it. As Victor is probably laughing right now, being like, oh my God, you guys. Lightless, light, yeah. So, oh. Okay, there we go. So Alex Gray is such a great painter. He captures so much of what is in the world around us that we don't experience. And so in his picture of the painter here, it really is that connection of who we truly are as a part of that much greater field of energy and essence that we are, and it's so funneled through us. And so You really can't be selfless. Like a lot of times people think like humility equals selflessness, but in reality you have to have a self. You're powered, and that is your highest self running through you. And then whatever it is that you do is an expression of it. So the painter here, you can see, moving his arms, doing this stuff, but look what's looking through him. Look what's all around in the unseen is all maybe those that have gone before us and the higher energies, that connection to Source and God. And so that's really the what we are, a part of that. And then the body ends up being more like just an instrument. It's the instrument that can bake, take ingredients and the hands are moving, and it's the instrument that plays music, it's the instrument that just holds space for somebody. It's, so this, in that physicality, we really are doing so much to expand consciousness and to bring creativity and to bring more into the world. And so a lot of times people think in service it means that we need to be doing something grand, and it's really so, it's like in the smallest things can mean so much. Last week I had heard of somebody, it was actually a client of mine that had said, I said, what changed for you? What turned the corner for you when you were feeling so low? And he said, when somebody noticed me. Okay, isn't that huge? Huge but small at the same time. When somebody sees people or is present with people. I know somebody who's in a wheelchair, and when it was pouring the other day, she kind of popped into my field, so I called her, and I was like, where are you? Are you okay, wherever you are? She said, well, as a matter of fact, she had been picked up by Metro Mobility and had been taken to the site where she was going to go listen to a speaker that night, but Metro Mobility picked her up at 4 for her to be able to go to this thing at 7. So here she was, out in the rain, and nobody was at the location for the speaker yet. And I just thought, in that moment I was so grateful that I was clear enough to have her pop in. And then and she was a little whipped up, and I said, well, how about calling so-and-so? Because I knew that person did a lot at that church, active participant. And she said, oh, I didn't even cross my mind, I've been so whipped up. And that's the way it is. It's like when our brain is active and we're kicked up about something, it's really hard for anything to flow in, for you to catch anything as it goes by, because we're producing so much. So I said, call that person, call me back. Because she was in St. Paul, I was in Minneapolis, there wasn't much I could do that would be a rescue. She called the person and she said, oh, he said, I know the person who's right by there, I'll have him go open the door. So you just think, isn't that interesting that just maybe offering an idea, placing something in somebody's field when it's not something they're thinking of in that moment, can be so life-changing for her in that moment. So then later I said, how was it? Did you have a good time? When she heard the speaker, and she was like, oh, everything was fine once I was a little drier. So I think, it's in those simple things a lot of times that we're offering service. And it's like, who is really offering the service? Is it really us, our identity of ourself? Or are we like a conduit? Is it coming through us? So when people are just supporting people, connecting with people, being in service, maybe in a more concrete way, delivering something for somebody, picking somebody up, bringing services to a place that doesn't have it, all of those things is the essence running through us. And so I think it's interesting to say, well, who's really in service then? You know? We might think it's about us, and we might kind of need it to be about us at times, but really it's that which we're connected to that's in service, and when we stay clear enough, then we know how to show up. And that place of something coming through us is then we get to be the vehicle of it. We get to be the conduit or the transmitter of it. And then when we get to see things change, either in little or big ways, then it's just like you get fed too. So there's that exchange. We're in constant exchange of energy. So I don't know if you've ever seen this cartoon, but I just love it. The one on the left is saying, "I've never met anyone so thoughtless in my life. Keep up the good work." And the one on the right says, "Thank you, Master." Isn't that great? Because in a world where we value so much thought, to actually be clearer so stuff runs through us is that's a great compliment, isn't it? Instead of like when people used to say, you know, "Oh, you're so clueless," you know, I'd be like, "Oh, thanks." You know? Or I think I've shared this before, but my dad used to say, "Are you out of your mind?" And I would say, "I hope so." So really the essence of us is bigger than the personal mind. You know? And so it's how do we contain this personal mind? How do we keep it in synchronicity with where and what we need to be doing? Because so much of the time it's moving at a different place than where the feeling is going or what the situation is demanding. So I think of it like this, like I've always said, this is like my earth suit and my essence got shrink wrapped. So we are in the world of form. And we come in as energy, you know, as light, fully capable. And from that place, when connected with the heart, then we're offering something just so nice, you know, for ourselves. You know, you're not critical of yourself, you're not hard on yourself, and you're not hard on the other people around you. But with this one, you see that little brain? It's going like, it's like the brain wants attention because it's littler, you know? It's really the personal mind is littler than our essence. And so when it wants attention and we're in service, then sometimes we want attention. If we're operating from the brain so much and the idea of self-importance or, you know, we're looking for kudos all the time. I heard somebody when I was walking the other day and this woman was saying to her son, "Do you know how many times I've done this and this and this for you?" And I thought, isn't that interesting? Was she in service when she did it, I wonder? And how is that in service to tell him? You know, my mom was amazing as we were growing up because we were 7 people in a 2-bedroom rambler. We didn't have much money. And last year I was hearing her talking to my sister because my sister was short on funds and had lots of kids and grandkids and everything. And my mom said, "Oh yeah, I remember. Do you remember the year you guys got those new jackets for the winter?" And we were like, yeah. And she goes, "Yeah." She said, "That was a cold winter." And I said, "Really? Why was it cold?" And she goes, "Because I wore just that light sweater." And I thought, see, I would never know. Because she wasn't trying to tally up how much she did. It was really, she parented from a very quiet personal mind. And so the ways that we got through was that her common sense, her wisdom, her knowledge was always coming through. And there was no need for her to have that be known. You know? So it's really interesting. So when the personal mind gets active, then it like needs the attention. It'll begrudge other people good things because it'll be comparing, seeing, if it's measuring up, if anybody's noticing them, And so that personal mind is the thing that I think of that can be working really well for us or against us. It's the innocence of the mind. It's the human factor. Is that mind conjures up a whole bunch of stuff. And when we're in a high state of mind, that mind is operating in a really good way. It's conjuring up great ideas, offering lots of stuff. It's a wonderful creator. That very same mind in a low state of mind creates nonsense. It has a higher need to be recognized. And that's that ego. That's another way of saying it. The ego steps in and raises its head. And it's like, what about me? So you'll notice too that when the brain is active, you will see people be louder about things. They're louder about, I had somebody say to me this week that when her mom came over, she was like, I did your dishes. And she said, thank you. A couple minutes goes by, and did you see I did your dishes? She's like, thank you. She said it one more time. And then it was, did I ask you to do the dishes? You see, that's what ends up happening. And so with this, picture, I kind of put a little gray fog around it. Because as we are operating up from that ego place, then a lot of times we create some dust in our field, and then that's what people pick up, and then they're less attracted to you because of that. So it's the innocence of the mind that gets going, and we just get into habits. So you want to be really gentle with the mind. Just be like, okay, settle down, ease up. I see that you're interested in everything today. Looks like you probably need a nap. It's no big deal. It's just gotten very active, ascribing meaning to everything. Gee. Victor, no. So, the flip side of that is like when your brain is in check, when it's operating with you and not trying to be all about you, that then you're offering service. It's easy to give. You feel like you have a full tank. There's no need for high recognition. If you get it, it's great. If you don't, no big deal. You're not keeping track. There's no need to be comparing. Because you're in the spirit of something, and that's really clean, and it's running through. It's just really nice, and so then you're actually, in the cleanest sense, doing the what in Peru they call aini, which is that moral kind of compass of, excuse me, a moral compass of reciprocity. So when you're in that place, then it's like energy goes out, it comes in, energy goes out, it comes in. And that's why you feel refueled. That's why you feel like you have plenty. When this is draining from that, thought is taking off from that energy, then harder to have that flow. So it's like when we get out of our own way, we actually get more. When you do something out of the high vibration or feeling, then that goes out into the world and it kicks the fields up all around you to be in a higher place too. So it doesn't matter where you are to do that. It's like holding that place. And there's not any pettiness to that. You enjoy that feeling, and when you start to feel like you're running on empty, you would pull your little vehicle up to the station and you would refuel. If you don't refuel, you don't take good care of yourself. See, that essence is always going to be trying to keep you on track. Then if you don't refuel, then you'll start needing it to come from the external. And that's where we get into all our habits. When you are in that beautiful feeling, it won't side with you to do stuff that doesn't feel good. That beautiful feeling will kick up something in you to get your attention when you're off base or when you're around something that's not working for you. It's like that beautiful feeling is in service to you even as it's offering up discomfort. When you have a negative thought that doesn't fit who you are or what you're about, what your essence is about, then you'll get feedback. The body will have a reaction. And so much of the time then we override it with the intellect or the mind, and then we start having illness or people around us give us feedback. And that's like so perfect because your essence will not succumb to stuff that doesn't feel right for you. And so there's this beautiful, again, beautiful running energy back and forth. You know when people used to say, what you put out, you get back? When I was in my youth and I was in a low place, when somebody said, what you put out, you get back, I'd be like, I didn't really get the higher ideal of it as I do now, is that energy breeds energy. You know, we hook into the waves with each other, which is in physics called it's called entanglement. You know, you have wave entanglement. And that's why it's so important that one of the best ways for us to be in service is to be in a nice place. So yeah, Aini. It's so nice, you know, when you are in that place where you feel like there's reciprocity. Don't you love when, and it's not like, well, I did this for you, so you have to do something for me. But it's just like, oh, you know, when you are with people who can appreciate and operate with the reciprocity, it actually builds a bigger field because you can connect with them then. And in that connection, the waves go out and get bigger. And that's why it feels good. One time I was watching the Actors Guild with, have you ever seen that? It's wonderful. Anthony Hopkins was on, and they said, what did you do to prepare for when he was the head butler in Room with the Remains of the Day? And he said that he went to the residence of the Queen and he talked to the people on staff. And one of the guys said that, you know, to be in service was to be in the room without anybody knowing you were there. And I thought, isn't that opposite of our culture? Now that doesn't mean that we should be invisible because, like I said earlier, people need to be noticed. Yeah. So we can't really, there's beautiful value in this statement, and there's also value in this other statement of being noticed. So we're in an either or. What I see is that when we're connected to self in the biggest way, there's a constant adjusting going on. And if you need to set a limit with somebody, you set a limit. If you need to just give and give, you give. But your system will always offer up for you which way. Because when the feeling is right, you're going in the right way. The feeling isn't so nice, then you need to make an adjustment. And then the opposite is here is where Rumi is saying, wherever you stand, be the soul of that place. That seems kind of big, doesn't it? Somebody could say, well, that's got a lot of ego to it. But not really. It means that we could hold space, you know, that we can bring in the essence into that space or that room, into that family, into that store, in the line at Rainbow or Cub, now that they've changed. You know, it's like holding space and being something bigger than what our little earthly minds are all thinking our life is about. So I want to ask you, what do you think are just some ordinary things, quiet things, that you think are in service? Yeah. Smiling, yeah. Listening. Presence. Yeah. Compliment, a kind thought.
Removing trash from places.
Pardon me? Say that again?
Removing trash from certain places.
Yeah, nice. Clearing trash from certain places, yeah.
Say just offering silent prayer.
Silent prayer.
Energetically offering unconditional love.
Ah, nice. Energetically offering unconditional love. Catching a door for somebody when their arms are full, or even when their arms aren't. Yeah.
Looking someone in the eye. Looking at someone in the eye.
Yeah, seeing somebody in the eye. Yeah.
And I was going to say acknowledgement.
Yeah. Acknowledgement. Yeah.
Like you're talking to a child, bending down,
Yeah. That's great. She said when you're talking to a child, bend down a little bit, get on their level.
letting someone into a traffic lane.
Oh, that's a good one. Letting someone into a traffic lane, yeah. Yeah. Like, is it really going to cost you so much to hold your, isn't that interesting? Yeah, those simple things, yeah. And, when somebody goes like this and lets you in, you're just like, yeah,
No, I was joking. I said, you ask too much.
Yeah, yeah. It really takes so much from you, doesn't it, to do that? Yeah. Or taking out the trash for somebody, or, it's just giving somebody a ride, Sitting someone. My mom is amazing because stuff just bubbles up for her of things to do. And so she'll go sit with somebody at the hospital, She'll go drop off a loaf of bread somewhere, It's just so much her nature to have that essence running through her. And they're not huge things, but oh my gosh, I get to sometimes listen to people calling and thanking her and how much it meant to her, So it's very interesting that we have our ideas that service is. I remember when I was younger, I was going to go to the Peace Corps. And then I saw this little ad in the paper that said counselor wanted apply within. And I thought I think I've shared this before, but that touched me so much because I thought, apply within. So I went to the interview, and it was in the middle of public housing, and there was the Peace Corps right in our own backyard. Working with immigrants, working with people who didn't have anything coming into the country. And it was like so close, but because my ideas sometimes were bigger, I had this thought that it had to be looking like it really did something. And yet it really was more about wherever you go, bringing that beautiful feeling. And
I've been practicing it when you see somebody, they're really attractive, but they're really neither. But I'm thinking it, it's positive to say it. And so it's amazing how many people say, you totally made my day, because it's greater than the they're thinking you're thinking anyway.
yeah, I'm not sure if you could hear that in the back, but she said that she's been trying to be conscious of letting people know when she thinks something's attractive or, sharing something with people. And then she gets feedback back that people say, oh, you made my day. Yeah. Just something that says, I've been thinking about you is huge, isn't it? Yeah. So those are all really great things. I also think that there's this part of us that is, to be in service, ushering in the higher self, is to be conscious of the vibration we're in. To be thinking about, like, if I'm kind of dragging, whoa, I better take a nap, or I better do something to clean up my energy, to give myself a boost, or to not repeat a story that was a heavy-hearted one that really wasn't even my story. It's like to kind of keep that stuff, clearing stuff out of your field, thinking about expanding, thinking about that pushing the energy when you're in the highest feeling and just having it expand out. Just to be conscious that we're creating fields with each other all the time, collectively, individually. Every organ in your body has an energy field. So we're operating in fields all the time. So if we kind of change the feeling that we're in, lift our vibration up, then we're really offering something. Releasing something that's old so that it's just not in your field. Sending energy, sending a prayer. Not accommodating nonsense. It's really good to get out of the way of that.
When I saw the list, that jumped out at me. And one thing that I started to do a few years ago is whenever I was moving self-pity, I would call a friend, and always turned out. It was exactly when they needed the phone call, but listening to their circumstances, I was like, oh my gosh, because they always had something.
Yeah.
That was going on. And then if I felt the nudge, I would say, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd say, you know what, I just need you to listen,
Yeah.
to validate that I'm not crazy, or that this is actually, this is huge bad, or whatever. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, and so it's that, and haven't you noticed too, like, sometimes when people reach out to you and you get that opportunity to be there for them, that you get filled up too. And so it's like it's that connection, essence to essence connection. Yeah. So be company, be in good company. Meaning just sometimes be present, like Jan said. Good company is not always something draining, right? And if something's always draining, then you are in service to set limits. That's a hard thing for us. But you are in service, like if you've had children, you're in service to set a bedtime. You're in service to them and to you. So doing things sometimes and setting limits is the best thing you can do sometimes for other people, but especially you can really only be monitoring your own energy. That's the energy you can affect the most. So it's like monitoring when is it time for you to sometimes set a limit. And if you're clear, the essence in you will either keep giving because it doesn't matter, or it'll make it clear that you're irritated, aggravated, feel some angst, feel tired, and then that would be giving you the message to pull back. So we have this amazing system always working for us. So I have always loved this saying from the Noetic Science. It's one of a 2002 magazine one time when I was reading, and it was deeper wisdom leads to service. To expressing our understanding and insights and contribution and service to others, which is the final practice, the culmination. All of the great traditions emphasize service as a means to and an expression of awakening. Is that we get to get activated. We go into ourselves to go more effectively out into the world, and then we go out into the world to go deeper into ourselves. And that's that infinity symbol, is it's always moving energy. So as an energetic thing today I thought we could do. I had thought we'd do a guided meditation, and maybe it'll be a mix of it, but I'm thinking, if you're up for it, is that I would like to have you. Do we have to do the collection thing now?
When you're done.
Okay. That was that little personal mind. It's like, oh, wait a minute, before you get too out of that part, you better check it out. So, to be in service, we've talked about, is to turn down the personal mind. So I would like, to the degree that you feel comfortable, is to walk you through turning some of that down. But then also, I think we're stepping into spring. It's the promise of a new time. That if you are comfortable, that I'd like to kind of walk around and activate energy. If that's something you're okay with. Does that sound like a good plan? Yes. So we could have some light music if that would work. So and so I'll kind of be walking through the aisles, and I'll be swinging my arms. Because what will happen for me is I will call in what is good for you personally and what is good for the Lake Harriet Collective. And then I'll be weaving filaments together or through your system, if you're okay with that. So just ask that your higher self direct it to take in as much as you want and what is right for you, what's a vibrational match for you. All right. So first, if you can close your eyes. And take about 3 deep breaths, whichever way you like to do that. And now think about your personal mind. Think about how high the volume has been lately. And think about it as either being on a slide that's got a high and a low to it, or a little knob. And just see if you can turn it to a place that feels right to you. So you may even take your fingers and bring it up to where your third eye is, in between your eyebrows and just a little bit above. And just see where it feels good to dial down to. And ask your system to imprint that dial to where it's comfortable. Where you feel peace of mind, and where it feels like yourself can get through, like the eyes on the painter from the Alex Gray picture, where the light and the good ideas and the insights as to how to go about your life and how to be in service is easily passing through that space. Now I'd like for you to think about having a knob on the left side of your head. That is your left brain, the one that wants to offer so much of what has already been known. So many thoughts that have been thought of so many times already. And the ability to problem solve and do your work and live your life. And imagine that you're going to inset a knob there into your head so that you have a little bit of control, so that you can turn that part up as needed, or that your highest self can adjust that as needed, so that there's not an either or to either of those knobs. There's just a way of balancing it. Kind of like with a faucet with the hot and cold knobs, you find the place that feels good to you, where both things are in service. The clear mind and the ability to work with the mind. And now ask that your system open to the highest frequencies possible that are in alignment with your life. Being able to clear any nonsense and resetting it, activating some vibrancy. Some filaments to where you're going today, where you're stepping into in your life. See if you can't make that heart-centered. With your mind being clear, with your higher self operating, ushering in your path. Releasing the stuff that gets in the way. As you breathe in, just imagine the color and the vibrancy that's available. That is way bigger than we can ever imagine. Extremely wise, responsive, able to make good choices. Sink into that feeling. It feels like a welcome home, as well as I'm ready for whatever's next. Imagine with the breath you're releasing it out into the universe and having it come back to you. And imagine that it even works if you had that infinity symbol, like with the head, creating great ideas, bringing those out into the world. Getting ideas back. And from the heart, putting out the higher feeling into the world and getting something back effortlessly. Bringing it into your solar plexus. And just think about your will connected to the heart, your sense of security going out and coming back. Offering that to the world that's gotten so kicked up. And imagine that you put that out into this community. For all the people that come here to get personally fed and to be able to offer a comfortable place for people to be themselves. Take a nice deep breath from the earth coming up through your system. Releasing out your head. And then imagine your feet breathing energy from above down through your body. Just imagine sending that energy out into the world right now, in all the pockets and places where unrest is happening. And just the act of breathing that higher feeling goes out and offers something. Intelligence within all the little particles and all the waves, reaching any part of the world with no time involved, instantaneously providing a gift for those in need. Take 3 breaths. Bring yourself back into your bodies. Activated and in alignment with who you are. Thank you for being here, for offering of yourself for everybody. It's good. How's that feel? Yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
It's really great knowing that you come in the Spirit and leave in greater spirit, walking out into the world, sharing and being in service. If anybody has intentions or thoughts, throw them out, and we as a collective will get our energy behind it and send it up.
Acceptance.
Service. And that's the ripple.
Patience.
Love. Holly of joy. Feeling to forever. Going light and
Now bend down, holding hands, and then scoop with your hands and throw all those intentions up.